The video that you are about to watch is an excerpt of the original. After my long efforts in dealing with YouTube's copyright management system, I had to give up. I haven't given up my projects though. And while we cannot publish the entire video here due to the imminent danger of having the channel closed down, you can still enjoy excerpts which we've carefully chosen in order to make this video meaningful, fun, and educational. If you want to watch the complete video, including the sound of the music from the original recording, as well as special edition videos which will never be published here on YouTube due to the same copyright issues, and the Beatles 150 series, as well as other series and courses, you're welcome to visit my Ko-fi or Patreon page. I hope you enjoy this video. Moving to number 27 in the Beatles 150 series. This time it is a song entitled I'll Cry Instead. Sounds a little bit darker than some of the ones I've been listening to. We'll see how it turns out. Well, let me start by reading what Vlad has prepared for me. Information about the song, and then we'll listen. The genre is folk rock country. That's a bit different than rock, beat. So maybe it's a bit of an experiment on their part. A noticeable shift in lyrical direction began after their first exposure to the music of Bob Dylan. Ah, that's why. During their January 1964 residency in Paris, the Beatles acquired a copy of his Freewheelin' album, which they played constantly. I'd started thinking about my own emotions, Lennon admits, regarding Dylan's impact on his own songwriting. Instead of projecting myself into a situation, I would try to express what I felt about myself, which I had done in my books. I think it was Dylan who helped me realize that, not by any discussion or anything, but by hearing his work. That's an interesting kind of influence for one artist to have on another. Not so much copying a style, either a poetic or a musical style, but to have another artist's work kind of help you mature a bit in your own perspective and way of relating to yourself, which of course then has a very significant impact on your own creative output. That's interesting. That was the kind of influence that Lennon pinpoints as being something significant for him. Well, of course it would be significant, but it was different than copying or imitating. When it came to the writing of I'll Cry Instead, the outpour of personal emotions, from anger and self-pity to embarrassment and retaliation, is convincingly portrayed as never before. Cynthia Lennon described the song as a cry for help from John. It reflects the frustration he felt at the time, Cynthia explains. He was the idol of millions, but the freedom and fun of the early days had gone. Well, that unfortunately is the lot of pretty much most, if not all, big artistic icons. Once you have a reputation and once you have millions of fans, it's really, really difficult to preserve the freshness and the personal autonomy and the space for your own self within that world. It's one of the reasons, as a teacher, I really, really have strong reservations against child stars and things like such and such country's got talent, that sort of show, putting somebody out front who has no experience and no way of being prepared for the life that could come. Anyway, so poor Beatles, poor Lennon. He's grown up, he's suddenly found stardom, fame, and now he's got to deal with it. I guess it's a good thing he discovered Dylan. Because learning to hear yourself is one of the keys to surviving that kind of situation. Let's see what this sounds like. It is kind of fun in its countrified jam session, almost Appalachian style. But you're right, these lyrics are sharp. Okay, well, let's go back through and I'll pause and we'll listen in detail. It's a short little song. It's very strophic and simple, but there are some interesting things that caught my ears as I was listening, and I'll point those out and see what else we discover along the way. Isn't it interesting how right away, once we've established this strumming, and I kind of like this slide up at the very beginning. And then we launch into this pretty static harmonic scheme. I mean, looking at the harmonic progression in this song, there's nothing outstanding. It is simply 1, 4, 5 all the way through, pretty much. But notice what's happening in the melody, because it doesn't really sound dull and boring, 1, 4, and 5. Why? Because there are some interesting cross relationships happening harmonically. And the first one we see is right here. It's awkwardly written in my score. It's written as A sharp. It's better to think of it as a B flat. If you think of it as a B flat, let's zoom in and see. Down here we have a B. Up here we have what I'm going to call B flat, even though it's written as A sharp. So, let's see if I can do this here. We have a B, and we have a B flat. Well, maybe I should play it on the harp as written, because I can't play B and B flat on the same string. So I'm going to play B and A sharp. Same pitches, you hear? But if I play them together, that clashes. And if I play this G chord here, and I play this, that's happening in the melody, this clashing note. We could call it the blues influence, because this cross relationship, the major and the minor third, it does stem from the blues. Also the minor seventh coming up a bit later, I saw. But it doesn't really have a blues sound to it, does it? It really tends more towards the lively country style. So we have these bluesy influence notes, which give it this edge, this, shall we say, bitterness? Because it reflects what's happening in the lyrics. This, I've got every reason on earth to be mad. In fact, when he says to be mad the first time, it lands right on this note that I was just showing you, that clashing note. I've got every reason on earth to be mad. Really expressive, isn't it? So in this song, we don't have to have a lot of surprising, innovative, colorful, complex chord progressions, as sometimes we have seen hints in some of these Beatles songs, and I understand there are a lot more of those coming up as we progress to their later works. But here, this is a very intuitive solution to the problem of how do I make this sound kind of like a mad cat. In fact, funny little side note, when I'm teaching my students about these clashing pitches, they get to learn a song which is called Cats, and it's all these seconds, major and minor seconds, really kind of edgy, and they get to figure out, is it the cat scratching? Is it the cat yowling in an upset manner? Anyway, so here we have a bit of a mad cat, Lennon. I've got every reason on earth to be mad because I've just lost the girl, the only girl I had. And if I could get my way, I'd get myself locked up today. Oof, he's jumping out in a hurry. Kind of reminds me of the same sort of very strong frustration and anger and sharpness that I heard in Queen's song. Let's see, it was called, what was it? The Queen song. Death on Two Legs. Death on Two Legs. Right. It's the same sort of spitting fire, spitting nails. Somehow, this one is almost as sharp. Not as dramatic, not as flamboyant. But if I could get myself locked up today, but I can't, so I'll cry instead. That's pretty stiff stuff. So here it is, in the music, on this clashing note, right on time. And it caught me the first time through, because, well, let's listen to it again and notice how we have that real sharp edge to it there. Here, when it says, if I, again, it's written funny. It's written as E sharp. Let's call it F. That is our minor 7. Again, pulling from the blues styling. Major minor 7s and 3s. But he puts it on I. If I, almost as if he can't quite get up to the major 7. If I, because I am just ready to claw something. And pointing these out and giving attention to those two dissonant notes, really, you start to feel the frustration and the bitterness there. It really stings. It's sharp. It's hard. But I hear something else too. It's this tambourine type sound. Maybe it is a tambourine. Sounds a bit like breaking glass, huh? He wants to punch something. He wants to break something. It's so intense and, I want to say, alive. This is so different from the songs I've listened to so far with the Beatles. It's not even the sad, broke up with my girl, or he got her, whatever that one was about. He, she, them. This is very direct, and this is very potent in its personal expression, personal flavor, personal style of expressing frustration. And it's so interesting. It does kind of make me think of what I know about Lennon. He says, I can't talk to people that I meet. I get shy when they start to stare. Because I do understand Lennon was kind of a shy personality as far as expressing himself. And here he says it right out. I get shy when they start to stare. I'm going to hide myself away, hey. That doesn't mean he doesn't have something going on inside of him. Instead, here is a star who has millions of fans. He realizes the power he's got. He can break all their hearts in a second if he wants to. What a threat. I just have to mention the bass here, which caught my ear the first time, and now I'm remembering to notice it again. It adds to this elementary country style. Bum, 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 bum. And just walking around down there on mainly the roots of the chords. Nice balance, though. I'm gonna have myself a... I show you what your loving man can do, and the bass walks down. Bum, bum, bum. Like, let's do this. I'll show you. Just like that, it's over. It strikes me as a sort of experiment. Lennon's first attempt at expressing himself musically, like he already has done in his books and his writing, but expressing musically in public, right? Because this is going to be heard all around the world. And this abrupt ending kind of makes me think of Lennon going hiding instead, okay? He made this effort. He's done this exercise of expressing himself and putting himself out there, but okay, enough of that. Let me just go hide my face and cry because, yeah, I've had enough. It's going to be interesting to see how and if this personal self-expression is something that he develops, and if so, how? And does he become more confident expressing himself musically in more emotional content? That's going to be interesting. I'll try to keep my attention open to that. Maybe I'll have Vlad remind me from time to time if I'm listening to a Lennon composition to watch out and see what's happening emotionally. Because it's true, everything up until now has been, all about love or the frustrations, but it's nothing really personal, deeply personal like this. Not to this extent. And that's going to be another thing for me to keep in mind as we move forward. Here we have I'll Cry Instead. Short. Should I say short and sweet? Short and sharp? Short and I'll Cry Instead.